All right. Ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to Tea Time with Barclay, where we talk to cool people and we drink tea. So today we are talking to David Steele. He is a podcast host and photographer and videographer and musician. And we are drinking lemon ginger tea. I don't have the box, but it is Bigelow.
Okay, yeah. That's
That
what I usually
infamous-
drink at home because it's just what you can get at Walmart.
Yeah, that
But-
typical, tea in the bag, tea. Maybe
good.
we need to let it steep. I'm getting too antsy. But it does smell good. So why is your favorite tea ginger tea?
I don't know if I wouldn't say it's necessarily my favorite. I don't know if I have a favorite tea, but I like ginger tea. It's really good for we were talking about earlier, your health, like congestion and all that, sinuses. So it's really good for in the winter to.
And it's
kinda
good for
help that.
digestion, and it's very cold outside right now, so it's very comforting.
Yeah, no.
Some tea.
I drink a lot of ginger tea in the winter, so that's why I decided to try some of this today.
Yeah. Cheers. Clink. It's hot. So, I think when I met you, it was in like 2017, wasn't it? Around
Yeah, it's around 2018, 2017. I remember that's when I met a lot of people around in the artist community in particular, but musicians as well.
Yeah, and when I met you, you were a musician. And I don't know if I met you at your party that you hosted or if I met you at a concert. I don't know. But,
we kept running into each other, even for the kind of years following, because I think during the pandemic, obviously we weren't that close pre-pandemic, so then we were running into you even a couple times during then. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you're still out there.
So, and I remember you, like, I think your parties was probably one of the things that, like, made me be more inclined to be in the community.
Yeah, and kind of see
and like get to know people more.
That's kind of one of the thoughts I had when I was doing the, particularly though when I started doing the parties again. It's like I just wanted to have kind of my ideal community just in friendships, right? Networks. The people I wanted to be around were artists, musicians, comedians now, you know, so it's like these creative people, and that's kind of who I like to be around and who most of my friends are. And so that's kind of the idea, I think, for that was like I wanted to bringing those people together to meet each other. Like so many people met each other, I think, through these parties that I've had over the years.
So you were kind of the Mycelium Gallery before the Mycelium Gallery.
Yeah, I was, I think that's why I think I align so well with the gallery, is because we have very similar goals in what we're trying to achieve.
Connect people. So you were a musician, and how did you get into hosting a podcast then after that?
It's kind of interesting, I guess, because I never wanted to be a podcaster or a host of any kind.
Yeah.
Like it's not typically my personality really to be kind of, I mean, it does align more than I ever thought it would in some ways. But yeah, I think that ultimately I did it because out of necessity. It's like I wanted to create, I love video and I love podcasts themselves. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So it's, it was something that I wanted to try, but it's like I didn't, I needed that person to host, but it's like it's hard to find those people. Obviously, I do have a good friend, Nick Campbell, who's very good at it. So we work together, but even then, it's like he's not around all the time, and I still want to do this stuff. So that's kind of drove me to do it myself and to, start learning these skills and developing that.
How did you meet Nick?
We met a long time ago. We were 12 years old, I think, when we met. So we've been friends for most of our lives. we met in 6th grade at, yeah, it was probably like the first or second day of school of 6th grade even.
Aw.
Because, you're in that 6th grade. It was the new school for both of us. We didn't have really, I don't think either of us had any real other friends there,
Okay.
from elementary school or whatever. So it's like you have to find people quickly. But yeah, we met then and became fast friends all of high school, middle school, high school. And then, after high school, like he always loved music. He started playing guitar when he was 14.
Okay.
So he sang before then, even, growing up.
Yeah.
He was always loved singing, so he'd always wanted to play music. So that's kind of why I started getting into music also.
Were you
back
in a
then.
band together?
Yeah, our
and
first
him?
band,
Okay.
we were probably 17, 18, I guess, like right out of high school. We started a group. Our band was called Aliens versus Robots.
Nice.
It was a group. We were kind of indie rock. I mean, we liked something we always got compared to as like a Modest Mouse vibe. It was
Sweet.
very experimental too. It wasn't like just straightforward. I mean, it was, sometimes it was, but sometimes it could be, whatever we wanted to try. We were just very experimental with the genres we wanted to play with.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did that for a long time too. It was about maybe 5 years, 5 or
Okay.
6 years, or maybe even longer.
You should do a cameo. We're gonna have an Alien versus Robots art show.
Oh, I see. Yeah, actually.
And you should do a cameo with
No,
that band.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on one of your upcoming lists. I was like, oh shit, that's
Yeah.
funny.
Get the band
But-
back together.
No, yeah, maybe one day. I mean, I've always wanted to do that. The thing with Nick is he hasn't done music in a long time. Well, whenever he started having kids
Yeah.
and a family and doing
Right.
that stuff,
And
it really is really difficult to do music.
Right. It is.
So but comedy has been the new outlet for him. So.
Yes. Yeah. So you have this podcast with Nick Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Rhythm Wit.
Mhm.
And that started. This is like the second year,
Yeah,
right?
it's
that
been
you've-
over a year, maybe a year and a half almost.
And did you start out? Was it? I know you interviewed mostly comedians, but you've interviewed musicians and just other performers.
Yeah, we've had some visual artists. I've interviewed you on there.
Yeah.
I want to do more visual artists, honestly. That's something, and it's like, and being a part of this gallery too, that it's like there are plenty of interesting people through
Yes.
here that I can connect with and do some more of that, which
Yeah.
I think I will. But yeah, we started Rhythm and Wit, and it was supposed to be, the idea was rhythm. I'm a bass player, so it's like I like music obviously a lot, and then Nick's the wit, so he's pretty funny.
Yeah. I
So
love
it's
that name is
music.
nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of clicked. I don't know. We ever started talking about it because that's something that I mentioned earlier. Nick had started having a bunch of kids, so he couldn't really. We were always trying to find something creative to do again together, and we had done some music stuff in the production side, like just like we recorded a few songs and tried to play around with that instead of trying to do a band thing. Just have some songs that he wrote and we could produce, but that was kind of still tough. So
Yeah.
that was going into that, and then we talked for maybe a year. Just had some ideas. Or occasionally I'd be like, we need to just do a podcast. Let's do something. But we couldn't figure out what the topic was, And then one day it was shortly before we started it, but I remember thinking about that, just kind of a local kind of, it wasn't even like my first thought wasn't the music and comedy scene or whatever. It was more of just a bass player and a comedian, because he had already started
Right.
comedy at that point, just talking about their lives or their art and their craft and that thing. Because
Yeah.
the first 10 or 12 episodes is just me and Nick. We
Yeah.
didn't have any other guests.
Okay,
And we were
yeah,
kind of had to learn what we were even doing to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I feel like podcast is mostly like you kind of, you just talk. And,
Yeah.
and when you first start talking, it's going to be awkward.
Yeah.
and so you just have to keep talking until it gets more entertaining and more
Right.
entertaining. I'm
Definitely.
learning that too.
Definitely, the more you do it. I mean, we've been doing it for a year and a half, and it's been weekly. I mean, I've missed 1 week of a release. It's not like we do podcasts every week. Sometimes I just do special videos like that I edit together, like events like the Paseo Arts Fest we did, and different
Yeah.
arts festivals. I have some kind of almost like documentary almost looks at things.
It
So,
is, yeah. And I like that
so-
you go to different events and you go interview people.
Yeah.
And they're probably not even expecting to be
Oh yeah,
interviewed.
for sure. Well,
And
and that's another learning thing too. Is like you got to really gauge on
Yeah.
who to approach and see who could be receptive. But
Yeah. So do you think, like, how is it hosting with another person? How is that
yeah,
experience?
it's really good. That's my thing. I think that me and Nick we work so well together because we balance each other out on a lot of just life things. I mean, and so like even with like my being a photographer and him being a comedian, it's like those two things marry well together because I need somebody to take pictures of and he needs somebody to take, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
so it's
yeah.
like, okay, well, it works because I need to have, and that's what's been so cool about the photography stuff is that I have like an endless, he produces shows, several a month, if not more, than I do photography for, and I always have subjects to go and photograph and practice that craft.
Yeah.
So that's really what's led me to be the photographer that I am today. And similar with podcasting, I think that, so we talked about that a lot. It's like, where would we be without each other? I think that it's hard to say because we've helped each other out in so many ways like that. And I think with the podcast stuff, it's like I would not be a podcaster if it wasn't for Nick, because I don't think I could do it on my own to start with. You know what I mean? That was too intimidating, and I didn't think that I could really pull it off. But it's like having somebody, definitely somebody like Nick that is very charismatic and outgoing. It's easy to just like let him take the reins, and I don't have to to worry so much. But I have learned a lot, obviously, from watching him interview people and kind of take whenever he's just going off the dome at some of these events, and he'll just come up with really great questions and are very he knows how to do it quickly and guide the conversation, and he's just so funny. The difference between our styles of interviewing too is like he's always going to have them laughing at the end of every joke, after every question.
I could tell
or
that he's
whatever.
like trying to get them to laugh.
Like
at
I think his whole thing is like he's thinking about where is he gonna fit in a joke, what's gonna be he can point out that's humorous.
Yeah.
So that's something I try to learn, but I like the side of I take the more serious approach and the more thought provoking and the more that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Get to
we
know
kind of
the
balance each
person
other
and-
that way too.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know if I definitely wouldn't have not done most of this without Elena.
Yeah,
Like,
a similar way because you
Yeah.
guys rely on each other for a lot of stuff, I'm sure.
yeah, it's kind of like it's like a partnership where it's like, well, if I'm not doing something, they are,
Right.
and then it makes you do it, and then vice versa.
Yeah, keeps you
It's-
accountable because
Yeah.
and I think that we all need that because I think about like every day I'm telling myself I'm not doing enough. I think that we all do that. in
Yes,
some
even
way.
though we're doing
it's like
everything.
it's like you need to think. Yeah, and I do. I try to to rein it back and be like, okay, what have I actually accomplished, and try to take stock
Yes.
and
Yeah.
try to feel good about where you actually are.
Yeah. And so now you are kind of branching out and doing your own solo podcast thing. And I was your first.
Yeah, you're kind of a guinea pig. I mean, obviously you're a fascinating person to talk to, but I knew that it would be easy for me I didn't want to bring somebody on I wasn't more comfortable with for the first one, just in case it was more difficult than and it was fine. It went great, so I appreciate you coming and helping me with that because it was a fun little thing, and now I'm
Yeah, it
up
was
to.
good.
I've done 3 more since then.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. I think I was, I think I watched one, and I don't know if Nick was on it. I don't
Yeah.
think he was. You interviewed Caleb. I forgot his last name.
Huntley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caleb
Yeah.
Huntley, yeah.
Yeah. He was on the latest episode. So that was episode 3.
Okay.
And
That's what
that
I was.
was, and
I was
I've
watching that one a little
Mhm.
bit, and yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he's
Um,
great.
And he's playing with the thunder and all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'm
that's
like, dang.
that's what made me want to have him on because
Yeah.
of that. Because I know you had a question about that, right? Like, how do I pick?
Yes, that was actually the next question. Yeah, how do you pick the people
Yeah,
that you
like
interview?
speaking of along those lines with Caleb. I mean, I've known him for a long time. I think I met him probably around the same time I met you and a lot of other people in this.
Okay.
You know, and so I now would run into him. He's always playing at the plaza and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
and you know, I'd seen him perform, you know, at least a few times a year every since
Yeah.
I've met him, and he's great. And so I've had the thought of like, oh, he'd be a fascinating interview. But yeah, what made me really pull the trigger and get him on was like he started doing those Thunder games, or not the Thunder, not yet. He's on the OKC Blue, the kind of minor league, but it's still like that's
Okay.
only the next step is to go.
Okay, I guess I didn't realize. Okay.
So, but
That's cool.
he's aiming for that. But he has
Yeah.
done the baseball team too.
Yes,
so
I saw
that
that
was-
too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he basically
So he's
has.
I think he's such a fascinating person because he's just. So when I see stuff like that, it's like I see people like creating their own opportunities.
Yes.
And that's something that I'm a huge proponent of because I think you have to,
Yeah.
especially in Oklahoma City. I mean,
Yeah, no one's
nobody-
going to be
yeah.
like, this is all of your
Mhm.
dreams right here. Do you want it or not?
Right.
No one's going to do that.
so yeah, for sure. And
And,
that's something that I do. I mean, that's going back to the parties. That's why I started doing those parties is because it's like it was too hard to get booked with a band because it's like, especially for new bands, if you don't have any, you know, real connections or you're just getting started, it's like, well, nobody wants to book you, but you can throw your own party and play there, you know.
Right. Or your
So-
own house. Or, yeah.
And at least, you know, get your music in front of people. So, I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, so, I mean, yeah, other than that, I mean, I just want to pay attention to a lot of people that, usually the people that I meet occasionally, like I meet people at the Paseo Arts Fest or whatever, like these kind of events that I'll go to, or open mics or things like that, like the Factory Obscura open mic. That
Yes.
one's, I love going there because it's
Been
like
there?
you meet so many interesting musicians there. It's like creative people that it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, and you start following them. It's like, oh, what are they getting into? And then you
Yeah.
start seeing them do bigger and bigger things, and it's like, okay, I need to talk to you on the podcast. Let's
Yeah,
let's see
yeah.
what's going on, you know.
But I also feel like these type of things lift people up too,
Mhm.
and like it helps to keep going with whatever it is if you see that other people are seeing you
Mm-hmm.
and
yeah,
and they
you
want
feel-
you to talk about
right
what you're
Mhm.
doing in your work.
because you feel they feel seen at that point. That's like the one
Yeah.
thing that we all care about, right? We want to feel like we are being heard and understood.
Yeah.
And it's like I think that is because I know growing up in speaking of aliens versus robots earlier, like in that time of my life, it's like that would have been. I mean, we did have a few opportunities that like where people wanted to talk to us. It's like but that was so rare. I mean, we did have like one. We had an interview in the Gazette once, which was really really cool. That was like one of the highlights of my
Yeah.
musical career. As I just love the Gazette so much and always have. But and another, we were on the radio. It was
Nice.
The Spy.
Okay.
We had an interview with them one time.
Cool.
So that was like the most nerve-wracking. I don't even know if I said 2 things on that. I was very nervous. But Nick, like I said, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that in a long time. But I'm sure Nick did most of the talking, like you know, he's good at. So.
Wait, was he the lead singer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a guitar player, lead singer. And
Okay.
then, I played bass, and then John Childress, our best friend, played drums.
That's cool. So have you always played bass?
Mhm.
You always just
Yeah,
bass?
it's the only instrument I've really ever really cared about even. 'Cause like I said,
Yeah.
growing up, I always loved music, I think. I mean, I don't know. It's even hard for me to say that because before I really got into high school, I guess, it's like, yeah, I didn't think about music very much. It was just like, okay, whatever. You hear it, you know, I knew like pop songs and I knew what the stuff my sisters listened to or whatever, but it's like, okay, I didn't really care. I didn't have my own identity with music until high school. And I think that's a lot of people find that in that age.
Yes.
But I've
so.
started listening to the Strokes. That's in like the indie rock of the 2000s, and that's really where that inspiration came in. And but it was really Nick. Like I said, he was the one that wanted to have a band, and so it's like, okay, well let me. And then my brother-in-law too. I think he is also a musician. So like, him and my sister actually bought me my first bass for Christmas when I was like 18. So yeah, I don't know. It's something that music, but since then, I mean, music is just more and more important to me. It's like it's something about it that's very magical. It's the only like art that I mean, besides like graphic art and photography and and stuff like that, it's like but it's a different type of art. I think of music as like a pure art because you can't really do it other than to create something. It's not like unless you're creating jingles for a radio or something. I mean, that is literally, or maybe a movie score or something like that. You're just creating music. You're just creating it. It's like creating a painting, It's like, what is the purpose of a painting besides to be there and to,
Yeah, it's more, it's like, it's a way that connects everyone without, like, even if it doesn't have words, it's like a universal communication.
Right.
Is how I see
So
music.
but I think it's the difference because I think as a graphic artist, I think graphic art is very, very different than the painting.
Oh yeah,
because it's like
for sure.
graphic art is very focused, it has a meaning, it has an actual purpose, whereas art doesn't necessarily need a purpose.
Right.
And I think about that with music. It's like that's my art,
Yeah. Do you think, when did you get into photography?
I've always loved photography. In college, I remember taking photography classes, and I got really into it then. But it kind of goes back. I think about it a lot now because of the videography stuff that I'm obsessed with. Like, clearly,
Yes.
it's like I don't know. I always think about like where does that come from? I don't know why I've always loved video, and it goes back to even in high school we were skateboarders and we loved. So we skateboarded all around the city and we were obsessed with that, and that was a very good thing for me. It kept me very active because I didn't do any sports, but skateboarding was the only sport I cared about. But so along with skateboarding was also the culture and the music, which I think also drove my passion for music. But the skate videos were a huge thing when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I remember getting a video camera for Christmas one year. And so we started making our own skate videos. We were terrible because we didn't know any, couldn't do anything actually as cool as these guys were doing, these professional level skateboarders that we admired. But we still did. But yeah, I was like taking the clips and editing them even whenever I was like 14, So it's like it goes back to that age. But I think that the video stuff even goes back further because I'm pretty sure my dad had a video camera before he had me. Because it was always a part of my childhood growing up, home movies and all of that stuff.
Nice, that's cool.
And it's like, I don't know,
Cool.
I think that it is probably a lot for a lot of kids. I'm sure there's a lot of people that grew up with that. But I think that I always thought it was more normal than it probably really was. I don't know, which is.
I think my dad had one of those, but it was like one of the big.
Yeah, that's
like,
what he had.
obnoxious
You had the giant
ones.
one. You put the actual tapes in there.
All of the tapes that my dad had was all nature.
Oh
It was all like
that's cool.
foxes. And
Yeah, no, my dad, he just liked filming all of us running around doing. all
Nice.
my brothers and sisters and stuff. So that was really, but I think that's ultimately where it comes from. It has to, because it goes back to my literal childhood. So
Yeah, and you are the one that films Tea Time with Barclay.
Mhm.
So there's always like, I'm looking at 4 cameras right now.
Yeah, so we do this. Yeah, did you have a question about that?
And obviously you can't. I was just gonna say, how does photography play a role in your podcasts? Obviously
Yeah,
you need them.
I think that the photography stuff. So yeah, going back to the photography, because it's like, so video stuff I think is my true passion, but it's very similar, right? It's just, there's still a frame and you're composing. So it's like
Yeah.
photography
It's amazing.
is. I got really into it in college, and then I kind of just dropped off. I think I never had like a really, really nice camera. And so it's like, I think at one point I got really into the bar scene, and just, that's all into like social life, and just, that's all I cared about for a lot of my 20s, and just stopped doing, because I didn't play music for like 5 years. It was a rough time. But, it was, your 20s, you don't know what's going on.
Right.
So,
trying to figure it out.
But yeah, so yeah, I kind of fell out of photography for many years. And then it was actually COVID in 2020. I remember I bought my first DSLR. It's actually this camera right there, the Nikon. I bought that in 2020 whenever we were in lockdown, because I was like, man, what are we, it's just, everybody's looking for stuff to do.
Right.
So I was like, okay, now's the time. Let me get back into photography. And so I bought that camera, and I took it out. And I would do that. You were mentioning about your dad. Was like, but when I was in college, that's what I did. I would go and just go to the parks and go photograph flowers, and go to the Will Rogers Garden, and I'd go downtown, or go to different areas and just photograph stuff. But that got really boring after, pretty quickly. I think that's another reason why I didn't continue with photography for a long time, is because I didn't have any subjects, And then I think with music, I love doing music photography, but that's like the hardest photography to do.
Yeah,
And
all
so
that
it's
action
like,
and movement.
I mean, it's just low lighting. Yeah, it's
That
just
too,
hard.
yeah.
I mean, it's very difficult, and there are some really cool things you can do with it, and a lot of great photographers out there.
So you photograph a lot of.
But I haven't done that as much as I would like. Music, anyway.
Yeah. So right now you're doing a lot of like comedy shows and other like performances.
Yeah.
Which are really cool. And then of course the
Gallery.
gallery.
Yeah. Anytime there's events, I like to try to come and take some photos.
And then where do you post those on your social media?
Yeah.
Do you have and then you have a website too, right?
Yeah.
For your
I mean,
photography?
if people are gonna look, or I kind of have it's really a link tree, but there's the actual domain is davidsteeledesign.com. Will take you to the link tree, and then it has the links to my photography portfolio, Rhythm Wit, and then my Instagram. And I think Facebook is really where, if anybody's really interested in almost all my photography is on my Facebook albums.
Cool. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of stuff from the gallery too that's on there. But
Great
it's like,
pictures.
and people usually will, when I post them up, they'll go through and they'll get a lot of attention on that day. But it's like, obviously, but they're still all there, that's why I like having.
Yeah.
So Facebook is the kind of hub where I keep everything, and there's like even the portfolio website or whatever. It's like it has a few albums, but nothing like.
Yeah.
I just don't keep up with it as much as I should.
So if you're at an event and you see David taking pictures, go on his Facebook and they're probably on there.
And I usually will tag people, especially with like performers.
Right.
It's like I try to make sure that they can access them and see them, because it's like I try to.
That helps with the portfolio.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I do it too. A lot of my work is like, I don't ever really get paid for a lot of photography that I do. But I'd love to, if you want to hire me, please.
Yes.
But I kind of like the idea of like pro bono work, it's just like for the good of the community, right? It's like, I just want to do it to help people, and because they need it, because and nobody else is going to do it. And a lot of people, can't afford to pay, a photographer or what I would charge for. So it's like I'll just show up with my camera and just do it for free, and then hopefully that will lead to some money, or or at least with the comics, a lot of times they'll tip me on Cash App or whatever.
Nice.
So I mean, I can end
great.
up making a little bit.
Cool. And then you also have been offering headshots too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need some headshots.
Yeah, I'd love to get more into that. I mean, that's something that's really fun. I think I like working with people on that stuff, but
yeah,
it's difficult just because it's expensive. A lot of performers have the extra. Even it's like I'll charge like $150 just for a simple session, but like even that's like out of most people's budgets, especially these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I will definitely pay when I can do that.
Yeah, because they're important for a lot of, whatever you're doing. If you're a visual artist, that's why I think you need some of that stuff too, and especially musicians and comedians. I think it's more important for that even, but yeah.
People like to see your face.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Okay, so how many bands have you played in now?
I don't know. Not as many. It's probably a lot, but I would say maybe like 4 or 5. But it's hard to say even because there's a lot of them. There'll be like different iterations where it's technically a new band, but it's a lot of the same people. So I feel like it hasn't been. There's really only been like 3 groups I would say that I've been with in a way,
And are you in a band right now?
Yeah, we're playing, we have a group, we're called the Commercial Break.
Cool.
We've been playing since last year, or at least, we've had a few shows. It's really, Josh Bartrug is the lead singer and songwriter, and he's an incredible musician. And so it's really kind of his stuff, but it's like I play bass, and then we have another guy, Corbin, that plays the lead guitar, and then our new drummer named Nate, who's actually on the OU drum line. He's a really, really good drummer.
That's awesome.
But so it's those guys, and we haven't done anything since the Christmas party was our kind of debut show with that whole group.
Yeah, that was a good time. I enjoyed it, and it's like I like that you made like this band's name is Commercial Break, and then the last one was Stolen Cable, so it kind of like plays on each other.
Because it's got a similar vibe. Stolen Cable was more kind of garage rock, kind of punk vibes, but this is a little bit more folky and country influence.
Yeah.
And Bob Dylan specifically. That's Josh's guy. So
cool.
So that's a lot of, but it's but it's got a lot of punk-esque, like kind of rock-esque things in there too. So it's a lot of fun. We're hadn't been focused out on that since the party. Like I said, we want to get back to it. Obviously, we have the group. Everybody's committed to it. I just think we're all kind of busy, so it's kind of taking a little bit of a break. But we don't even really have a social media presence yet, so we need to. I've been slacking on getting that together, but
I think that's all the questions I have, though. But
cool.
Yeah. Thanks for drinking tea with me on this cold-ass day.
Yeah, this is really nice. It's a good warm-up.
Yeah, I don't think I've had, maybe I have had lemon ginger, plus probiotics.
Yeah, it just feels like very healthy.
Yeah, it's nice.
I feel healthier. So yeah, thanks for having me on. And
yeah, this is David Steele again. You can find him on Linktree, David Steele. What is it?
You can go to David Steele Bass on Instagram.
Okay.
That's kind of my main. I don't know. Yeah, I try to build that following up mostly.
He needs to get paid for his photographs, so if you need some headshots or any kind of photography or videography, he's your guy. He does great editing, and yeah. Thanks for being here. Thanks for drinking tea, and join me on the next tea time with Barclay. Oh wait, another thing. We at Mycelium Gallery are making a zine. I guess this is the introduction of the zine. I'm not going to tell you what it's called yet, because I don't know if I should yet. But we are making a Mycelium Gallery zine, and Tea Time with Barclay will have a little interview in there, so check that out, and David will be the first one that I interview in there. Yeah, so catch you next time.
Bye.
Cheers. Clink. I wish they clinked more. They kind of don't
It's not
clink
really a
very
good
well.
sound. I mean, it's just kind of a.
Clink.
It's probably like, yeah,
Clink.
you need like the nice wine glasses or whatever to
I'll get
get
some
that.
fancier cups.